So I'm just sitting here, uh, my dining room table, an out of focus view of that, but I'm going to switch the view, show you the ceiling, and just begin to ramble a little bit about bits and pieces of my story as background to another story that I'm going to share. I have both fiction and nonfiction uh, that I'm working on, and there's my top of my head. Anyway, I'm going to pause for a second. I was a watcher as a kid. I observed things going on, and later, in my late teens, early 20s, I realized that I was still in that role very much of the time. And people told me their stories beyond, bits and pieces of family stories that I got from relatives. Other people told me their stories, and I readily slipped into that role because I was really inept in terms of girls and young women, in terms of approaching them. I could talk to them, I could listen, I could listen really well, and that role was amplified, I think, because I was, it was good. It was easy for me to be a listener, but when I had to, if I wanted to ask someone out, that was a difficult thing. I would, I had the experience one time of someone saying, just relax. She was very patiently waiting for me to finish asking her out. And she had to tell me that she had a boyfriend already, but she was very, very kind and considerate in all of that, very patient, let me finish and struggle. But she tried to comfort me in that as well. And fast forwarding just a bit to my mid 20s, I was still really inept. Uh, each time, I would approach someone or become involved, uh, it was really like starting over, as if I had absolutely no experience. And what I'm going to talk about just for a second is my experience with a couple of cougars before I knew what the words were, and it was more, again, slipping into what was, you know, more easily slipped into as a default mode. Uh, and it's sort of like one sort of led to the other without any intentionality in that. And the second one, I want to make a point of talking about because she had shared some of her story and it led me to some insight as to why, why she didn't just have her way with me, why she was very patient. And really nothing happened uh, for the most part. It could have, but really mostly did not. Uh, but she was sort of infinitely patient. And there was a reason for that, is because when she was much younger, in her early teens, someone had, I would say, violated her. But even as they tried to not, they were trying to be careful and not damage her. They did, nevertheless, and she ended up hating them for the rest of her life. And I won't go into details about that because that's her. I don't share, this. And she's, if she's still living, and I don't know, she's a very, very old woman now. Uh, I'll try to do some checking and see if I can find out. But I have very fond memories, but also very mixed memories too, uh, because there are things that uh, in my own way, I have many regrets, many regrets. Things I wish I had been more uh, assertive about and adventurous, but also things I'm glad I did not. You know, There's always with each relationship, you know, however it turns out, it leads you to other things and other uh, understandings and lessons that you draw from that. And I think I'm going to end there for this one and elaborate a little more later.